I just taken a walk in the middle of nowhere and felt like I just come and walk around places. That's my job. No, and just thought to share some of my thoughts. So currently, for example, I am at times really strongly hit with this feeling of absurdity, how odd and bizarre reality is, almost as if I was some kind of a visitor. Well, that's how I felt when I was a young kid. I felt like I didn't belong, and I'm sure that many of you can totally relate to that feeling, because the world does not really accommodate so much people who are special or different. It's this weird mold that we are in, but even more so that I'm walking on ground, that I have gloves on and glasses, that as I speak technology breakthroughs are being worked on, that we live in a tiny blip of human history. I mentioned in my previous videos the technological acceleration of humanity, how we started as human beings about 100,000 years ago, then 10,000 years ago was the agricultural revolution, a few thousand years ago was the bigger emergence of cities, a few hundred years ago was the industrial revolution, then a bit less than a decade ago was the beginning of the information revolution, and just a few decades later and a few decades before our time, like 30 years ago in the 90s, was the widespread adoption and use of the internet. And so if you put those time scales together, you realize that we live in an unbelievably strange and special moment in human history. And that's a fact that is really difficult to appreciate, because we as human beings are just so good at taking everything for granted and getting used to things, that this car is driving by, that we have all this technology and stuff. Our brains are just amazing at adapting. Some things, of course, we are not so great at adapting. For example, that's the reason why there's so much anxiety and depression. A lot of people have issues. I think we are mentally unhealthier than we were in tribes like 10,000 years ago. But of course, it's really difficult to compare. But one could say that we have traded a sort of satisfaction of our primal instincts with material goods. And there's just no comparison. You can't just compensate by having more and more pieces of paper. It just doesn't work. There's something profoundly wrong with our society, as is obvious if you look around. Homeless people who have medical, psychological issues, and of course the indescribable amount of just human lives wasted and potential and suffering that is going on. But again, I'm thinking about this bigger perspective, and that this is just a blip in human history. We live in a tiny moment in human history, and what's about to happen, no one can really, like we can't imagine it and we can't predict it, but unless we stop progressing the way we are, something really strange will happen. Of course, artificial intelligence, automation, but our world is changing so quickly that even within a few decades in our own lifetimes, we will see drastic changes. And everywhere I look around when I'm in this weird mood, I see signs of, at the same time, us being really advanced in ways, but also so incredibly primitive. So many things that I see and experience and look around at, I'm just reminded of how we are still people. Our genetics are still the same with the people who lived thousands of years ago. You know, as they say, if you took a caveman baby and raised it up in our society, it would grow up like a normal child, normal baby. So we're identical. It's just our surroundings that are changed. And this is a testament to how adaptable our brains are to even do as good as we are doing to cope with this society. world we have built, but something has gone wrong. It's a messy, complicated subject to talk about. You can't just say society bad, society good, or technology bad, technology good. It's just too complicated. But I will stay by my statement that I stated that this is just a tiny blip in human history. For me, that helps to recognize that fact that we live in an unbelievably special point in human history, and no one can predict what will happen in the next few decades. And we are nearing something unlike anything before in history. And this is thanks to our technology. Only a blind person who is completely oblivious and naive would just think that things stay exactly the same for the next decades. I wanted to print out an entire list or whatever, like chest breakthroughs made like this week, to give an idea of how like absurd it is that some people in Beijing found a new way to enhance some nanorobotics that can use solar power more efficiently and move microscopic particles around, which could be used in our bloodstreams or whatever. News like that is it's just unbelievable, and it's unbelievably weird. That's why I mentioned I don't take seriously the idea of a simulation, but again, I would be like, I'm not surprised because it's so weird. If you think about it, I think the more you learn about the world and the more you understand the world, for sure, the weirder it gets. At least that's the way I feel. The more I learn, it's just surreal. One great lesson to take from like Eastern philosophy and stuff is to not take life so seriously. You can say life is a joke. That's too depressing, I think. But life is a game. It's a kind of game. One day we all die. Our lives are finite, at least for now. Again, in our lifetimes, we can have tremendous changes to the way how we live our human existence, either biologically extending our lifespans or something more normal technology, what people would imagine. But yeah, like this is just a game. Like the only thing that matters is that you are happy. Do the things that can make you feel better. Like what else is worthwhile to do to make people happy? Like maybe indirectly, maybe helping other people makes you happy, but it still makes you happy. No matter what you do, you're still selfish and trying to make yourself happy. But we are human beings. There's nothing wrong with that. And it's totally pointless to deny our humanity and that we are apes. I think I failed, but I wanted to share just a kind of glimpse, but I wasn't successful at it. I really tried, but I don't have the words for it to describe this surreal feeling of how things are about to change. It's like, you know these videos where you look at plants grow in time lapse, fast forward, or you see hurricanes or weather systems change in time lapse. I kind of feel like we're in that in a weird way, if that makes any sense at all. Things are changing really quickly, and the rate of change is accelerating itself, so changes are happening quickly, and the quickness gets even more quicker. So yeah, it's just profoundly weird. I am like excited to find out like what's gonna happen actually. And don't take life too seriously. Like, we're all people. Everyone has some form of consciousness. We're a lot more alike than we are different. And our goals are much more alike than they are different. And I believe that in our world, we are going towards a better future. I think it's difficult at the moment to see because there's so much nonsense going on, but those as well are just remnants of our stupid monkey brains and the diseases and corruptions that are inherent in our systems. But those we are mending as well. And like either we are so stupid that we die, which is like fine by me if you don't get to see an amazing future, what else is there? But I do think that we can create an incredible future, and it's just bizarre and surreal and exciting. And again, don't take life too seriously. Only thing that matters is that you're happy. So these are just some of my thoughts about weirdness. Yeah, I hope that was something interesting to listen to. If you have any thoughts, please share them in the comments. If you ever feel something and have a human brain and heart, then tell me about it. But thank you so much for watching, and take care.